Hey everybody, it's Gomledax and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we'll be doing this week's Midweek Magic Event, which is another Momir event. In Momir, each player has access to this emblem that lets them spend X mana, discard a card, and create a copy of a random creature with mana value X. You can only do that at sorcery speed and only once each turn, but that is kind of the crux of the format there. Each player taking turns getting random creatures, seeing who ends up with the biggest and scariest threats first, and potentially wins the game off of those. That being said, while traditional Momir, like you would see on Magic Online, is literally just that Momir emblem and a bunch of basic lands in your deck, in Magic Arena's Momir formats, they tend to shake it up a little bit, and they have done it again this time. There are a bunch of multicolored cards in the main deck of these Momir decks, so you can actually draw non-land cards and just cast them from your hand. I'm not a very big fan of that. I would really much rather my Momir events be all or nothing and completely around that Momir emblem, because I think the added variance where you're just stuck there doing stuff at random and all of a sudden your opponent just plays a King Darien and beats you up with that. Not the funnest thing ever, but it's a very chill event, very chill prize structure. We just have to win 3 games and we have endless time to do it. You can't get kicked out of this event even if you lose 50 games in a row. It's a pretty casual one, so let's just go ahead and spin the wheel and see where the cards fall for us today. All right, here we go with game 1. Love how they've completely removed the ability to mulligan from this format. That's very funny. Didn't even ask, it just boots us right into there. So generally with the Factory of Momir, again, it's a very random, very high variance format, so really anything could work, and you should just do whatever you think you'll have the most fun doing for the most part. Again, because that prize structure is super casual. However, in competitive Momir, like on Magic Online and stuff, people generally don't do 1-drops. When you're on the draw, you can start at 2 mana cards. When you're on the play, you start at like 3 mana cards, I believe is the general strategy. The reason is most 1-mana creatures in the game are going to be completely nullified by your opponent's first like 3-mana card and then just most likely not matter for the rest of the game. You could still get lucky and get a 1-mana card that like mana ramps you or something like that. But generally speaking, if you start going for 1-drops, you're just going to be down a card in the early game and it's not really going to affect things later. So we'll start at 3 mana here. Opponent did get a Shambling Gas that can give something -1/-1 when it dies, or give our opponent a treasure token. And unfortunately for us, our 3-mana creature dies to their 1-mana creature. But every card is kind of equally valuable in Momir because we're just discarding basic lands. It's kind of like trading my Snow-Covered Swamp for their Snow-Covered Swamp. Just take a tempo loss there. I don't think I will be taking this trade, though. They're going to go for a 2-mana creature. Interesting. I mean, it definitely works out for them getting an Overgrown Battlement. That's pretty lucky. Maybe they have a 1-mana spell. I definitely have not looked over the deck lists here because they are very random. Yikes, that's a really bad 4-mana card for us. Basically just a 2/3. If we can get any other life gain synergies, it could be decent, but by itself it does absolutely nothing. Just a 4-mana 2/3. So our opponent's now getting miles ahead, because now they have an Overgrown Battlement as well. So now they get to take the lead, even though we were on the play, so we're theoretically playing bigger cards first. Now that they have a mana dork, they'll be playing the bigger cards first. They get to play their basic land, go for a 5-drop, and go from there. They're going to choose to just discard a land and go for a 4-drop instead. They do get a great one again, a 3/3 flyer. There's a King Darien for us, but no green source or red source means these 2 cards are useless. Junkyard Genius is a little worse than Darien, I think, so I think I'm going to discard the Junkyard Genius here. Generally, in Momir, the strategy is to keep playing lands as far as possible, because a random 5-mana creature is likely stronger than a random 4-mana creature, a random 6-mana creature, likely stronger than a random 5-mana creature, so on and so forth. So I wouldn't recommend skipping a land drop just to discard a land instead of something like a Junkyard Genius. But when you've got a mana dork, you definitely have more breathing room. Well, we are super dead. Yeah, I guess we just lose. They get a 3/3 flyer into a 5/5 flyer. They're not hitting us, though. They're holding the 3/3 flyer back. Well, we could get there here if our opponent plays nice and defensively. And then they give us time to hit some high-impact cards. A 4/4 flyer would generally be, but not when your opponent has a 5/5 flyer. Oh, wow. And their random 5-mana card makes it so if they Croaking Counterpart from their graveyard, they double it up. So they can just cast this Croaking Counterpart from the grave and get 2 copies of anything? Yeah, that's really, really bad for us. They could get 2 Overgrown Battlements if they want. With the Croaking Counterpart. They're going to go for a random 5-drop, get a Cloaked Cadet. Now they attack with the 3/3 flyer, and I'll block with the 4/4. And they're just going to scoop them up. Alright, that was pretty weird. Opponent was probably pretty new to the game, I guess, because there were just a lot of strange play patterns in general, but I guess that's how we'll get our first win today. See what our random rare reward is. And it is a Demonic Bargain. Not the best rare ever. Very, very risky one, because you could just exile the card you wanted to search for, but hey, it's cool for like Historic Brawl where you have a 100-card deck and it's not that bad to exile 13. So, cool first rare reward. Let's head into the next round of gameplay. Alright, here we are for round 2 of gameplay. We can actually play a Junkyard Genius this game, so we're going to want to do that. With the Junkyard Genius's Power Stone token, we can activate that. We can use that to activate the Momir Emblem. So when we actually have like the red and black source, Genius looking pretty solid here. We've got all 5 colors of mana as well, so we could even keep this Path of Peril in case our opponent gets far ahead. Wow, Junkyard Genius and Arbalest Engineers? Looks like this is going to be one of the least random games of Momir I've played in a while. Again, I do far prefer when Momir's entirely basic lands. But yeah, we're just going to go 0 RNG mode here and just set up some Power Stones. And that should put us in a very, very firm lead. Because not only are we on the play, but we're going to have 2 mana ramp cards. We're going to be playing 6 mana cards the turn after next turn. Actually 7 mana cards. Yeah, this is going to be really nasty. And once the Engineers has resolved, it's already got its ability out of the way, so we just send in the 2/2. We do trade into this 3/2. That had some kind of ability that would give something unblockable if they spent 3 mana into it. Something like that. So I'm pretty happy with the trade. I think the abilities like creatures with power 2 or less can't block it till end of turn, something along those lines. Yeah, but here we are with all 5 colors of mana and 7 mana right off the bat, thanks to drawing 2 Power Stone cards, and we immediately hit an Elesh Norn, and that's going to put us a mile ahead. Now it's even possible our opponent hits like 5 mana 6/2s and stuff like that. That'll just die the second they touch the board when we have an Elesh Norn down. So very, very lucky 7-drop. Mind Flayer, speaking of lucky pickups, Mind Flayer is huge, and I think that's going to make me need to just Path of Peril here. Could go for an 8 mana card, or I just Path of Peril and then start going for stuff. I think I need to just Path of Peril. Pass the turn. So we can start going for 9 mana stuff the turn after this. 8 and 9 mana cards are really weird on Magic Arena's Momir because there's not a lot of like 8 and 9 mana stuff that they've actually printed. So they actually added a bunch of jank at the 8 and 9 mana slots so that they're less guaranteed. So even though we have a lot more mana than our opponent, might end up not being in our favor if I keep going for 9 drops because they did add a bunch of just weird jank again, like a 9 mana 9/9 that can't attack unless your opponent controls an island and stuff like that. They added Iona. This is another card that I don't believe it's in any historic or explorer anthology. I think it's like just for Momir. So when you get all the way to like 9 mana, things get really weird. So generally I do like starting off at 2 mana cards if I'm on the draw, or 3 mana cards on the play, because that gets you up to like 7 mana, where all the random cards are just like legit random cards. But yeah, 9, 10 mana here. Things are weird. Momir. Being a upkeep, you can pay 2 life to search your library for a card and put it on top. Yeah, that's really bad here. They put all the bringers on as well. Well, we hit them down to 9 at least. Pretty good. I'm just going to keep going for 9 mana stuff. I mean, again, I would say most 7 mana cards are better than a 5/5 trample. Although our opponent's 7 mana card is literally a 5/5 trample, so who knows. Villainous Broker of Blood, definitely better than both of our 9 drops combined. So that's really bad. Because that wins combat against Iona very easily. I think I'm going to go for 8 mana cards. I don't think there's any 9 mana cards that work as a removal spell right when you play them. There's like Zakama, which you can use as removal spells later. At 8 mana, there's like Hoverguard Sweepers that can immediately shoot 2 things. Yeah, it's rough. It's super random either way. We gotta get lucky. I'm gonna go for 8 mana and just get Hoverguard Sweepers immediately. Bookworm's not bad. Does draw us a removal spell, a Dire Tactics here, to exile that Villainous. It's going to be very important. Our opponent has 2 black mana. They do have to pay 2 life every time they do that, but they do draw cards while they're doing it. But yeah, if they pay too much life, get in range of just taking lethal from one of our 7 power creatures. So, let's see. I mean, they could attack us with Villainous. A little sketchy. I lose 8 life when I Dire Tactics the Villainous. So if they attack with Villainous, I have to chump block, otherwise I can't kill it. Yeah, I think our idea is probably to attack with Bookworm, and then however they block, we exile their blocker. Okay, if they have Unleashed the Inferno, we're probably just dead. Because we probably won't have the life to use Dire Tactics here. Because they're going to hit us for 8, put us down to 7. Okay, well, if they block Bookworm with just the 4/4, we could get there. That's our only out here. If they double block, though, they're alive. And there we go. Just the 4/4. So exile it, trample over for 7. Exactsies, very, very close game 2 there, but we will grab our rare reward and see what we've got here. It is going to be a Depopulate. That's a pretty fitting one. We did cast a Path of Peril recently, so nice little board wipe effect there. It's pretty sweet. Claim that prize and move on to trying to get victory number 3, get our mystery cosmetic. That could be anything from a parallax card style to a showcase card style, card sleeve, and avatar, if you're lucky. So we'll see. Junkyard Genius in the opener again with the red and black source for it this time. Excellent stuff. Very excited about that one. Our opponent is on the play. Alright, they just immediately passed turn, so we're probably just going to get our first win off our opponent just being AFK, or our final win off our opponent being AFK. Nope, they're back. Okay, so basically it just turned into us being on the play instead of them, but other than that, no huge, massive downside to just skipping your first turn in this format. I mean, obviously being on the play is better than being on the draw. But no biggie, they just missed 1 turn here. We'll just flip the turn order basically. Alright, they're going to start off on turn 2. They do get a 1/1 double striker. We're going to drop a Junkyard Genius and start at 5 mana cards next turn. 3 2/2s better than a random 6-drop. Maybe? With Junkyard Genius's activated ability on the board, probably. Where I can give the whole board Menace and +1/+0. Ooh, King Darien? Yeah. King Darien from the hand here makes their double striker a 2/2 double strike, which is really, really threatening. Not a big fan of that. Hopefully we get a solid 5 mana card to block that. Take our 4 damage. As soon as they allow me to say no blocks. No blocks here, we take 4 down to 16. So I do have a guaranteed way to kill a double striker if I just hold up a Sure, but I feel like the majority of 5 mana cards are already going to be big enough to block it anyway. And I'm going to try to spend all my cards on more power toughness on the board here. Yep, there we go. 4/4 trample, good enough. That would trade in. That's going to do as much as a Sure would do at least. If I block and use a Sure, I'm trading this spell for their creature. This way I'm trading this Snow-Covered Plains for their creature. Dire Tactics. Okay, they have a human on board with King Darien. That's pretty brutal. Don't take any damage to do it. Alright, take 6 down to 10. Now I could just hold up Assemble, I guess. Double block Darien. Double block the Twin Blade. Oh, I can't actually use this Power Stone on Assemble. So I have to wait another turn. I think I go for a random then. Random 6-drop. There's one 6 mana card in the game that will... Actually, it doesn't kill us in this Momir mode. When Momir was entirely basic lands in your deck, there was a 6 mana card that exiles cards till you hit a non-land card that would just exile your whole library and you would just lose the game. Wow, this is huge if it ever hits our opponent. That's a big domain ability, getting a +1/+1 counter for each basic land type we control. But opponents just all removal in hand. Pretty good draws for them, and this is part of what I really don't like about Magic Arena's Momir. I like the pure random all Factory of Momir Vig style, the whole... Oh, I have 2 removal spells in King Darien in hand. They've only played 1 random card all game and we're gonna die. It just feels really against the spirit of the format for me. They spun the wheel once and they are gonna win the game. Should be wheel spinning the format. Just all around. Six mana card. Green Dragon. And they can kill all 3 of our... Well, I think they still have to assign lethal, so they still have to assign 2 to each. Regardless of this ability? I mean, I guess we'll find out. We don't have another play. But I think... we still get to keep 1/2/2 when we double block Darien here. But then we're just going to die to a flyer. The odds of hitting a flyer at random are not super high. So flyers, just evasive creatures in general, are like the best things in the format. Well, Darien's super busted in this format because they could sack Darien to give the other thing indestructible if they want as well. Are not going to do that, and I do get to keep a 2/2 Elf Knight. Because it has not been dealt any damage because they had to assign 2 damage to my first one, even though they have this ability on the board. this isn't like a keyword ability like Death Touch. Because it's like a triggered ability on the stack, the combat math doesn't realize that you only have to assign 1 to 1. One of those weird little rulings things. Alright, 7 mana, let's get a flyer. It's like Dairy Gaz and stuff at 7. Oh, there we go. 7/7 Flying Trample. That's a blocker. If they don't have a third removal spell in hand. Okay, board wipe it is. Fine by me. We are back to spinning the wheel at random. Oh, if they just make a 1 mana card here, I'm going to be very happy. I guess they're at 7 mana, so they're already at like about as big as things can be. Wow, it's another flyer. That is super lucky, and it scries. There's a removal spell for us. Probably have to hold that up to kill the Raven, and go for a 5-drop plus hold up a removal spell. Damage equal to the number of creatures we control, so we need 1 creature on board to kill this. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then start playing 7, 8 mana cards next turn. Hey, that's pretty lucky too. Get our own flyer to block that, so I don't even have to use this yet. We'll see what they put on top of their deck here. It could just be a land, but they would have just scryed it to the bottom in case there was a spell to have more options. Alright, it's just a land. Wow. Well, we really lost the lottery this game. I have to chump block that. 5/5, and they can cast something for free because they put spells in the Momir decks for some reason. Wow. Give the board +1/+1 trample here, I guess? Like 2 1/1s, yeah, so I would need like a board wipe to survive. Other options? +1/+1. I still don't beat the 5/5 if I do that. I have to chump there. Get my own 1/1s to block their 1/1s and then just hope to draw removal for the 5/5. But then I'd be chumping there, taking 1, going to 3 life, have 2 1/1s to block those. All in on Hover Guard Sweepers? Sure. All in on Hover Guard Sweepers. That is a 5/6 flyer that returns 2 creatures to their hand. Slim Vote is definitely not that. Well, we got supremely outlucked that game. And that was a particularly frustrating one for me because I'm kind of a Momir purist. And our opponent cast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess they didn't cast this genius. I think they discarded that. But they cast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 actual like spells. We cast 3. But definitely a game that felt heavily decided by a bunch of removal spells in their hand and the board wipe in hand, and not really a lot of random creature stuff going on. I mean, the very end was them hitting multiple flyers in a row was super good for them, but it was the lack of like creature tokens mattering in the early game that got us down to 4 life in the first place to make that the way the game ended. Like, we were at 4 life from King Darien plus a mountain of removal. Alright. Another board wipe. Interesting. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. What that board wipe is. We're on the draw, so we can start at 2 mana cards and still make it to 7 mana. I think I'll get rid of Law Mage's Binding here. Actually, a sure assemble. If I hit a an island, then just having like one targeted removal spell, not having to wipe the board, seems pretty good. If my opponent gets like one really big flyer, that'll be a very nice card to have. Three crocodile. That's about it. Okay. Discard one of my 4 snow-covered swamps here. Get a 2/3 Bear Spirit. Well, I can double block their 3/3 with a 1/3 and a 2/3. Another 3/3 for our opponent. That one lets them sack their other creature to put 2 counters on it and scry, so they have a 5/5. A lot better at attacking and blocking on this board. Primarily attacking. I guess the 3/3 is already perfectly solid at blocking. For Rampaging Cyclops. If it's blocked by 2 or more creatures, it gets -2/-0. Unleash the Inferno, my 4/4. I'm pretty happy to see that. We're going to spend that this early. Not have that left over for like a big flyer we could get. Tremendously happy to see that spent on a 4/4 with no text. Feels relatively unlikely that the top card of our library is going to be a creature planeswalker. Most of the deck is lands. There's a very high percentage of lands in this deck. And then there are definitely a bunch of non-creature spells as well. So I don't think we're supposed to spend mana on Grizzly. Just go for a 5-drop. I could just try to sit here and get them to overcommit into the Solar Blaze, but... Ooh. We could also hit really good randoms like Chaos Balor. When it attacks or dies, choose 2. Somebody discards their hand, then seeks them any non-lands. Deal 2 to a player, they get 2 treasures. Deal 2 to each creature player controls, they get +2/+0. Am I gonna chump a 5/5 here? No. I'll hit for 2 and pass. We'll just let the 5/5 in here. If Balor dies, we can shoot ourselves for some treasure to be able to actually use our Law Mage's Binding. Gorman makes us sack a creature. It's very rough. So Solar Blaze would kill their whole board, but not mine, so we might be on Solar Blaze now. Junkyard Genius, pretty cool. Gets us to 7 mana stuff. Could attack, shoot myself in the face to get 2 treasures. Then shoot that Gorman. I think I want to wipe the board before I do that, though. Let's Solar Blaze. Solar Blaze, get treasures. And then do 2 to all their creatures and make them bigger, since they don't have any creatures to get bigger anyway. Now I'm holding up Law Mage's Binding off the treasure tokens. And the treasure tokens also let us do 7 mana cards next turn while holding up a blue source still. Alright, there's a Grun, no big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, at this point I might just discard Junkyard Genius. Grun's a little scary. Actually have to do a 6 mana play to be able to hold up Binding. Just in case. Oh, hey, Multani. Multani, you are quite large. Guess I'm just gonna... give them treasures this time. Now they die in 2 swings from Baylor. Hit for 6, hit for 6. We've got a really good blocker, and I'm holding up Law Mage's Binding. They could have board wipes for sure, those are in the deck. This was also not a super Momir game if we win. Yeah. I mean, it was Momiring that we won off a Chaos Baylor at random, but we kind of needed the board wipe as well, so like, just like draw a board wipe, play a board wipe. Doesn't feel super in the spirit of Momir. Not a fan of them just chalking these decks full of a bunch of random non-land spells, but it is what it is. Nice quick 3-1 today for the Midweek Magic Momir event, and let's see what our mystery cosmetic prize is. It is unfortunately a Parallax card style, one of the weird 3D effect ones. The reason I'm not into them is, as you can tell at the left-hand side of this card, they are mirrored images. So you can see on the right-hand side as well, where the little shield or the little leg of it turns into like a heart. It's not supposed to look like that because it's just a leg going down towards the ground. It's not supposed to curve back up. But yeah, I don't love the moving images, and then I really don't like the mirroring on the edges. But we still got 2 random rare rewards for sure, and it was a cool format to check out. But that is going to end today's video. I'm not going to play anymore, I think. I do enjoy regular Momir. I would probably keep playing for about an hour if it was like regular Momir, but it was a huge bummer when I saw that they shoved a bunch of cards into the decks again instead of just being entirely the Momir emblem like it is on Magic Online. Just not that into it. I don't know why they do that. So we'll grab our prizes and we'll head on out for today. So as always, that is going to end today's video. If you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more in your recommended feeds. You can hang out with me live at the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. You can support the channel directly at the Patreon link in the description below. And as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.